How are we doing, guys? And welcome back to 𝐼𝐍 TV. We're straight back into it. It is another opposition preview. It's Everton at home, and I'm here, delighted to be here with Ped from Toppy TV. How are things, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Bit of a strange season so far, but yeah, it's very early days, and obviously a tough trip to Ellen Road awaits us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? Obviously, both of us went through similar pain and stress and anxiety last season watching our teams, but we're both, again, it's very early days, very early days, but we have started the season quite differently, really. And that's caught me by surprise. And has it caught you by surprise, Everton's inconsistent start to the season?
No, not at all. You mentioned there the end of last season. Everton just didn't react, I don't think, in the right way to what happened last season, and certainly they haven't reacted well to selling Richarlison. Whereas on the other hand, Leeds done something similar in Raphinha, but immediately reinvested that money. Everton have only just brought in a striker in the last couple of days, Neal Maupay, who wasn't available for the game at Brentford, but should be available for this game. And that's basically where we are as a football club. We seem to react far too slowly to situations. And we started the season poorly in terms of points. The performances have been okay, but without a striker, because with Dominic Calvert-Lewin being injured, it's been tough so far. So no, I'm not surprised. Is the answer to your question.
Do you expect Maupay to be thrown in? Because he's a player we know a lot about as Leeds fans. We've had a few run-ins with Neal Maupay. He's one of those players for me that you love to have him in your team because he's a bit of a, for want of a better word, he winds up the opposition, doesn't he? Do you expect him to start Tuesday night?
I do actually, because I think we've missed the focal point. We've been playing with a 3 at times, and then on other times we've been playing with Rondon. And neither of them are really what we need or what we want. We wanted, obviously, to come into the season with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who are obviously, again, it's funny the similarities between our two clubs. You had no Patrick Bamford last season. We had no Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Two strikers that both of our clubs really rely on. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin got injured 5 days before the season starts. But again, Everton put themselves in a position where they only had really one decent fit centre forward going into a Premier League season. So Maupay, I expect to come in because the game on Saturday against Brentford, Everton are 1-0 up. They rode the luck. I appreciate that. But with a striker on the pitch and someone you can get the ball to, you can hold on to it, you can change the momentum of a game. It really wasn't there. Someone who will fight from the front. So it's something we've been desperately missing. So that's why I do think Maupay will go straight into the team and give us that platform to play off, because it's the games, the games we've lost by 1 goal in both of them, Chelsea and Villa. We've had a couple of draws, couple of 1-1s, and it's crying out for that. That's something a little bit different, because at the end of the day, goals win games, don't they? And if you haven't got a striker at the top of the pitch, who gives you that shape that you require, that all teams really require. I mean, we're sitting here, we're looking at Manchester City, one of the best teams in the world, and they've brought in Haaland to give them something a little bit different. It's the most important position on the pitch. It's you wouldn't grab a winger and stick him in goal. That's how important they are, to me. So I do think he'll start, and hopefully he'll give us just that little bit of an extra dimension in this game, and certainly the games coming forward till Dominic Calvert-Lewin is back.
I mean, you touched on it before in terms of Bamford and Calvert-Lewin. For me, if either of those players even played half the games last season, I don't think either team would have been anywhere near a relegation battle. And it just shows, just in that example, the fact that our top scorer was Raphinha, and our next highest scorer after that, I think, got 7 goals. And then you're going down to like 3 or 4 goals after that. And probably a similar story of Everton with Richarlison that we've already mentioned. But we should say the game is, of course, live on BT Sport on Tuesday night. And this video is in association with BT Sport. So as you can see here, BT Sport will broadcast all 10 Premier League midweek fixtures exclusively from Tuesday to Thursday this week, 30th of August to the 1st of September. And of course, it does include Leeds versus Everton on Tuesday. With a BT Sport monthly pass, you can watch huge amounts of football from all sorts of leagues: the Premier League, the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League, the UEFA Conference League, Serie A, Ligue 1, and of course the Vanarama National League. If you are a non-league football fan like myself, for the next 30 days, for just £25 with no contract, you can sign up for BT Sport. The link is in the description down below. Make sure you check it out. A chance to watch Leeds versus Everton and plenty of other Premier League football. So do check that out, guys. We are in association with BT Sport on this video. I guess, Ped, the question to you is that what kind of team selection are you? Obviously, we've mentioned Mopé. What kind of team selection are you expecting? You seem to have gone from like a back four to a back five to a back three, and you seem to be switching systems up a little bit. Is that just a case of Lampard finding his best team? Has he still not kind of found that combination yet, would you say?
No, our team's been pretty stable this season, to be honest. It's been it's a back three come back five, and whichever, depending on how and what is needed within the game. Obviously when we're going forward, it'll go back to a back three. And when we're defending, it goes into a very tight back five. It's not something all fans like, but as we build and as we try and grow into some kind of team, you'd hope that, because you obviously play with a back three, it very quickly becomes a back five if you're a little bit nervous in a game. Obviously, what you want to do is you want to have those wing backs pushing as high as they can and having that energy up and down the pitch. That hasn't quite worked. I think that relies on having a midfielder who can get around the pitch and fill in those positions. We don't quite have that yet. And obviously, I think the striker situation has changed because we've tried three up front with Anthony Gordon, Dwight McNeil and Demarai Gray. That is not ideal. We've had Rondon in for a couple of games. That's definitely not ideal. So hopefully when Mopé comes in, that'll give us that focal point till Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes back. And then maybe get another one in this week to shore up the midfield as well. And then that should be I would imagine, our team for the rest of the season. There's little combinations, little changes you can make to that, of course. Going back to a back four in certain games, or changing the personnel here or there, of course. They're all natural things with squads. But I think, he's decided, Frank Lampard has decided on a back three, and now he's just trying to, I say perfect it. I mean, it's a long way from any kind of perfection, but he's just trying to get everybody used to it. And obviously with Tarkowski coming in and Conor Cody coming in, those two players have got to gel. I mean, we've already lost the three midfielders, three centre-backs, that we had on the first day of the season. We've already lost all those three players to injury now, and two of them are long-term injuries. Mason Holgate got injured on Saturday against Brentford. He got a knee injury. So that just shows you how quickly things can change, and how difficult it must be being a manager and having to gel those different players together in a system that's relatively new to them as well. So there are a lot of issues at Everton, and the injuries just pile up on top of them and make it just a little bit more difficult for the manager.
Let's talk a little bit about the manager. Obviously, I'm not sure if you probably will be aware that there is a bit of history between Leeds fans and Frank Lampard. It is like a long time of talking about this, so I'm not going to go too much into it. You will probably know the history. I mean, I'm from a family of Evertonians, and it's quite mixed, the feelings on Frank Lampard. Obviously, after you beat Palace to keep yourselves up, he was like the greatest man to ever walk the earth kind of thing. But obviously, since that, I think the pressure has changed a little bit, in terms of, obviously, now there's probably a bit more expectation there. Would you say that's a fair thing to say, Ped?
I wouldn't say expectation, no. I think it might look like that from the outside, but I don't think there's any expectations from Evertonians in terms of. It depends what your expectations are, I'd imagine. I don't think anyone thinks Everton are going to be in the top half of the table this season, which is, to be quite frank, is pathetic. It's quite pathetic that we are now a football club that doesn't expect to be in the top half of the Premier League.
That is mad. That's amazing. Just look from outside looking in, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a real struggle, like to think in those terms. I mean, it is pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic that a club the size of Everton and what it's done is now not really considering being in the top half of the Premier League, when the Premier League, in terms of what falls below the top 6, is wide open. And there's a lot of teams on a very, very similar level. I think Frank, the fans at first, when he came in, there was very limited options. A lot of people got behind Frank Lampard. He seemed like the most sensible person to come in. Then the back end of last season, the momentum grew as the fan base sort of took charge of the situation and started getting the atmospheres going at the ground and stuff. And Frank Lampard did the sensible thing and completely backed that and went with it and applauded all that and got involved in it. And so therefore, to a majority of the fans at the moment, he's seen as someone that they want to get behind. In terms of him being a football manager, I think he makes a lot of mistakes. But I think at the same time, he's a young manager and he's very, very inexperienced. And he has this weight. And it's funny because I don't think your manager suffers from this. And I think that's an actual bonus for your manager and Leeds fans, is there's an expectation on his shoulders. And it's the same with Gerrard at Villa, is that they get talked up as what they were as players. And it's somehow supposed to reflect on what they are as a manager. And that's nonsense. And you see in the media, people talk about him as like the worst manager in the world. And then there might be this this assumption from outside that as Evertonians, we think he's the greatest manager in the world. Neither of them are true. Neither of them are true at all. Evertonians are behind him because they want to see him have some kind of success because of what's gone on in the last year and the managers we've had before. We like him generally as a person, so we want him to do well. But he does make mistakes. Some of his substitutions baffle me at times. But he's a young manager. He's learning the game. I think that's what we forget in all this. We just take the name. And I understand people will go, well, he's only got where he is because of his name. Well, that happens all the time in football, whether you're at any level and in anything. We know ourselves that certain players seem to get picked for the national team because of the team they play for and all this kind of thing. There's so much of that goes on in football. So I think everyone at Everton is behind them, and we don't want another manager. We don't want to be changing managers again. We like this fella. We like the fact that he seems a genuine bloke who's trying to do the best for Everton and likes the fans. But he's still got a lot to learn. And I think as long as you can balance those two things out and understand those two things and try and let him get on with his job and understand that he's a young manager, then hopefully, we as a club can move forward and put a lot of the sort of civil war that we've seen as a fan base in terms of the managers and the decisions to get made. We can put that in the past, because I think it's so important for a club to have to be unified, to have that unity. And I think, with Leeds, I think we saw that with Bielsa, I think, and you're seeing it now with Jesse Marsh. So if we can just at least have that, I think that will be a step forward.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised in terms of what you say about the unity, because obviously I do feel last season, much like it was with Leeds, the fans at Everton, certainly in the home games, kept you up. And I think you kind of alluded to that. And it felt like there's a real together. Certainly after seeing the scenes after the Palace game, in terms of, in my lifetime, I've not seen Goodison Park. I'm not an Everton fan, obviously, but I've never seen Goodison Park like that in that kind of sense after that Palace game. It's an interesting one. But obviously Lampard, it's the nature, isn't it, of the media? It's from one extreme, he's going to be the next England manager, to the extreme of how is he managing the Premier League. It's a bit like that with Jesse Marsh as well, to an extent, in terms of, the media have said different bits and pieces. And I think that's just the nature of being a young manager in today's era, really, for me, Ped. I think it's just, until you've won a trophy or a promotion or got something tangible on your CV, there's always going to be people asking questions, isn't there? It's But in terms of this game, before we finish, let's talk about a prediction. First of all, what kind of game are you expecting, and what's your score prediction for this one, mate?
I'm probably expecting another tight game, because all of our games have been tight. Defensively, we've rode our luck at times. We look a little bit more solid, but we still as a unit still look a little bit nervous at times. So I think it's going to be tight. I think, in the two, funny enough, in the two games that we've been to Ellen Road since you've been back, I think we've won one and drawn one, so the record's not that bad. But I do expect it to be very, very tight in terms of the game. But I'll go for a 2-2 because I'll be honest, our away record is absolutely shambolic. I mean, it's depressingly bad how bad our away record is. It's one of those things where we can't seem to go away and just nick a win no matter what. So I'll go for a 2-2 like it was last season.
Yeah, I mean, great game last season, to be fair. Obviously, that was you just at the start of your time under Rafa Benitez, I think. It was like either first or second game of the season. I think it was second game of the season. But I think for us, again, I think it's all about starting the game well for Leeds, in terms of that first 20 minutes using the crowd, because I think Everton, the way you have played this season, again, my research hasn't been great because FBref was telling me you played a back four in 2 out of the 4 games. Obviously, that isn't the case. But it does seem like you are defensively a lot more sturdy within that back 3, back 5 kind of shape. So I think we've got to start this game well and not allow you to grow into it, really. But we'll see. It'll be an interesting occasion. I'm sure the atmosphere will be right at it. And of course, guys, just before we finish, to remind you, you can catch the game on BT Sport on Tuesday, because BT Sport will broadcast all 10 Premier League midweek fixtures exclusively from Tuesday the 30th of August to Thursday the 1st of September, including, of course, Leeds versus Everton on Tuesday. With the BT Sport monthly pass, you can watch huge amounts of football from all sorts of divisions: the Premier League, the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Conference League, the UEFA Europa League, Serie A, Ligue, and of course, if you are a fan of non-league football as well, you can of course catch the Vanarama Conference League too. So check it out, guys. For the next 30 days, for just £25 with no contract, you can have BT Sport. So make sure you check the link in the description as well if you are interested and want to catch Leeds versus Everton if you are not at the game on Tuesday. I just want to say a massive thanks to Ped for jumping on the channel. It's been great to work with Toffee TV again, head of the game. I just hope it goes better for us than what the game at Goodison Park went, because that was a low point. Ped, where can we find you, mate?
Toffee TV on YouTube and all, Toffee TV EFC on all our social medias as well. Again, we'll be doing our match preview for this game, and obviously we'll be having you on for our opposition preview as well. So if anyone wants to check them out, it is Toffee TV over on YouTube.
And all the links in the description, guys, so make sure you check them out. Absolutely superb channel, which I look up to a lot, being from near Liverpool. So, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you later. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.